Today we're working on my wife's 1979 Volkswagen Rabbit diesel, all original, 125,000 miles. It's a pretty solid car, zero rust besides a little ding in the front. But today we're going to be working on brakes on the car, and the brakes are going to be an upgrade from the original German brakes to newer modern brakes. Not modern, but newer style. Okay, so these are the brake calipers that are on the car, right? They're German. They're a European version, actually, of the rotor, of the piston. The whole assembly is European, so it's virtually impossible to find at a reasonable price, or even find them at all rebuilt. And right now the brakes are barely even grabbing. The cylinder must be rusted inside, and whenever I was bleeding the brakes, had a bunch of rust and rust color coming out of it, so these barely even worked on the car. So these are the rotors that were on it too, and you can see only the backs, only part of the pad was actually touching, and the front was barely touching a little bit, but they look pretty bad. So I need to get new calipers. So I did some research, and the one fella on YouTube here, I can't remember his name, but I'll put a link down in the description to his page. But he talked about upgrading or putting newer brakes onto your Rabbit. So these brakes calipers also were from 1975 to 1979. They put them on Rabbits, but from 79 in between to 84 they switched over to this style of brake, which is, you can find these at Rock Auto, you can find them at any place. You can get rebuilt ones and everything. So the funny thing is that these are from a 1990 Volkswagen Cabriolet. I went to a junkyard and I went up and down the aisles, and I tried to find ones that looked the same, and there's actually, they use the same brake pads from same brake system from 1980 to 1992 pretty much. They use the same style brakes with the rotors and the bracket, and they actually mount these two holes here, mount the exact same place as these two mounting holes. So they didn't change the style, well, they changed the style, but they didn't change the mounting of any of it. So what I'm going to do is, these are from, like I said, a 1990 Cabriolet. So I'm going to try these ones out onto the Rabbit. So I did a little test fit already on the Rabbit, because I wasn't sure if they were going to fit at all. And so it ends up, they fit on there exactly perfect. The caliper, the bracket, and the rotor is all from a 1990 Cabriolet. So look, they even mount up here. This hole, that's the same screw I used for holding there. And then the bracket, it fits in there perfect. Look, it's actually already, the guard fits right around the bracket and everything. So it seems to fit together pretty good. It all lines up pretty even. Even the caliper lines up straight right with it. And when you go to the junkyard, when you're walking up the aisles, this is how you can tell if you have the right bracket or not, because it looks like this, of course, but it'll be on the car, and the earlier style has these two mounting bolts that hold on the bracket and the caliper. The caliper bolts onto here, and this to here to the front, front strut area. So when you're walking up and down the aisles at the junkyard, you'll see later ones, this whole bracket is integrated into the whole spindle. There's no longer bolted on. So if you see that there's 2 bolts here and the caliper, that means you got the right ones and they should fit and this should work. So I went to the junkyard, I went up and down the aisles, and I looked at, some of them were stuck in the mud, some of them were hanging out like whole pieces in the whole front suspension and everything, just stuck in the mud somewhere or thrown somewhere. But these ones, all these were already on a 1990, but the wheels were on it. So since the wheels were on it, everything was covered from the weather. So these didn't look too bad. So I ended up having to take the wheels off and blah, blah, blah. So when you're at the junkyard, also, don't try to save your hydraulic lines. Take some cutters with you and just cut the lines, because it doesn't matter. You don't have to try to get them off or anything from the car itself, like this end. I just cut those right off. With those, I took the 2 bolts out, which are 15 millimeter. I'm pretty sure it was a 15 millimeter socket. Took those 2 off and just pulled the whole assembly off. And I pulled it with the pads and everything. I even took the bolts too. So what I got when I was at the junkyard is I got all these pieces and parts. I got 2 of them, 2 sets. One set, which is a pair, and it cost me $8 for each rotor and $8 for each caliper, including all this. It was all for a total of $32. I walked out of the junkyard, park and pull, or pull and park or whatever type of junkyard. So another thing to point out is that these rotors are actually going to be an upgrade. See, these are vented and they're wider, which will give you some better braking than the original, which is here. That's a solid and it's not vented or anything, and it's thinner, so you'll get some better braking and cooler braking with vented. So we're upgrading to vented disc from the old solid disc, and we're doing a more general and cheaper brake caliper and bracket system than the old one, where you can't even find or buy anymore. If you do, they're so expensive and they're used, and it's pointless to even buy them. So another thing you want to look for too is that on your original brakes, you may have seen some of them say, like, if you have a grilling type connector on it, it has, if you think you have that on your old car, then this will be a little groove cut inside here, which these are not. These are the Kelsey type or later style or American type hose connections. So if you have ones with little notches in here, there will be little notches cut inside here into each one of these things. Then you know that's a girling one. So you'll need to upgrade or buy new hoses, which I bought these hoses a while back from the parts place, but they're brand new. You can see there's no cut into those, into this part. So you know that these are the Kelsey or the later or the American version, whatever you want to call it. So then they go right into your caliper, right there. Okay, so another part of the process is that I went to Rock Auto and I found these type calipers. They're made in Canada, and since I did all the effort to get all these brackets and everything, it ends up you can buy, whenever I bought them I didn't know they came with the brackets, but they did come with the brackets already. So what these are rebuilt. They're Canadian made, even says Canada on there, but they're the same calipers on the outside, but it comes with the bracket, the same thing as this, but it already comes with it, already put on there, which looks like it's a little bit different. It has this piece, you can see here, there's a little added brace in the back here, so we'll see how that fits in there, if that's gonna cause any problems, but I don't think so, but we'll see how it fits in there. But anyways, so the brand was Nugent brake calipers, and this was one of the part numbers for one of the sides. It says product of Mexico, so, but it has Canada on it. But anyways, but this caliper here, most of them only come with this whenever you buy it from Rock Auto. So normally you can just buy this piece, which is rebuilt and everything, and then there's a core charge, but this one came together with the bracket, which I found very surprising. So anyway, so the next thing you do is when you need to go buy pads. Now whenever you go to buy brake pads, like for me, because I bought mine from a 90 Cabriolet, and it comes with the vented disc now. The vented disc have different brake pads, and what they did is they just made the pads thinner to fit around the vented disc, because this is thicker. So when I went to O'Reilly Auto Parts, I said I have a 1990 Cabriolet, and they sold me these pads. So that's another thing you want to look out for too. So now whenever you go to get brakes, you don't tell them a 79 Rabbit. You, like what I'm working on, you just tell them a 1990 Cabriolet, and they give you what you need, boom, you're out the door. So these were only like 18 bucks. And then the calipers together from Rock Auto with the bracket and everything was about $35 with a $15 core. So you do a little bit of investment, but you can know that these will all fit on your Rabbit that has the old ones. And it all comes down to that these two bolts are at the same location. Okay, so I'm going to go and put these calipers on and see how they fit on there when I take my test fit ones off. Alright, here's an update. So, like I said earlier, I have a feeling this bracket isn't going to fit right. So, I went to put it onto the car. There it goes. Okay, it goes on this way. So, whenever I line up, I try to line up the bolts. It's hitting right here, and I don't like that. It also hits the bottom, if you can see that. It also hits down here too. So I don't like how this bracket's going to fit on there, because I'd have to cut this, and I'm anal retentive, and I don't like just to cut things to make it fit. So I'm going to be using the original bracket that I got in the junkyard. Ugh. Like I showed before, it fits in there perfect. It's like it was made for it. So I'm going to be using this bracket. So what I did is, I'm not going to use this one that came with the caliper, but this caliper will work on this bracket, so it'll work just fine. The thing is, some penny pincher somewhere thought these ones were cheaper to use as the sliders that go inside here, and they have a special thread on the end that only works on their bracket that they provide, which kind of stinks, because I kind of like having brand new parts in there like that. But instead, this is the good thing about going to junkyards and buying parts, is that the caliper, the junkyard caliper that I got with the bracket and everything, already had sliders in it, and they're in actually very good shape. They're not rusted or pitted or nothing, and with the bolts. So I'm going to use these sliders and bolts into these slider holes here where the caliper slides on, mounting it to the original bracket so I can use that. So next step is I'm going to fit all this together, and I'm going to show you how to put those things in. They're tricky to get in there, and they're the anti-rattle springs. Alrighty, I'll be back. Okay, here it is all together. Got the bracket on. See how it's nice? The Volkswagen bracket, see how nice it fits right inside there? Perfectly spaced. Way better than that big hunk of metal, which is probably some type of crappy metal anyway, so it's probably better not even to use it. So then you got a good German Volkswagen bracket, calipers on, and the rubber hose, the new one that I got, comes up. I reused the bushing to keep it inside this bracket from the old hose. It comes over into here. One tip, easy tip, there's a little tip here to do, is that if you disconnect this one from from the metal hose here, this fitting down here, it goes into the caliper. The whole hose needs to spin whenever you stick that, when you screw it into there. So disconnect it from here, and then screw the new hose in, spinning it around, then tighten it, snug it down, and then bring it up and reattach it to here. So that's there. So the anti-rattle springs, I completely couldn't even get it onto the bottom on at all, because all it did is bend it all up. So it basically, it squeezes in here, it goes underneath the hook of the pad. This hits into the caliper and holds pressure against the pad here, and then it comes over and hits into here, and it clips and it comes around here. So I might not even run these at all. I might even just take it off, because I have a feeling it's just gonna be a pain in the butt. So on other versions, they have a plate that comes across here, it kind of snaps in there and it keeps it from rattling. So maybe I'll try to find one of those later on, but I'll give it a try how it is right here. So another part that I used, not the original, was whenever I took the calipers and everything off of the junk car, is the original one was just a bolt, just plain bolt, no washer, no nothing. So I don't really like that. So since I took the bolts from with the calipers from the junkyard car, see, they later ones they put it on with a built-in like washer, a flange washer, flange head or whatever. So I use these, and I use these instead of the old ones or whatever to put the new bracket on. So there it is all together. The next step is to do the other side and see how that goes together. It should be just the same as this. It's exactly the same, but just remember that just because it's from a Cabriolet, or it could be a Jetta or a Golf or a Rabbit, they all bolt the same up to until about 1992 and down. They should all be the same, except for the Fox. Don't get ones from a Fox or anything, because those are different brakes. But if you look here, I'm going down in the description, I'm going to put down what years to look for to find the right ones. But remember, when you go to the junkyard, it'll have two bolts bolting on the on this bracket here, or this bracket here, but you know what I mean. So remember, there's going to be two bolts, and if there's not two bolts, it's not going to fit on your Rabbit. Okay, so it can be a vented one like these ones, or it could be a solid brake. Either way, the caliper and everything will be the same. This is one other tip to show you too. If you can see inside there, I should have showed you this before I put it all together. But let me go grab another caliper, grab another brake pad. Hold on. Okay. All right. So the reason why you can use the same caliper and same caliper, same disc and everything on this vented or not vented, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. So the only difference is the thickness of the pads are different. So, you know, this is the one from a Cabriolet. This is the one I bought at the store for a Cabriolet. So you can see how there's less meat on this one than this set here. I ordered these by mistake before I got the vented, before I found the ones in the junkyard. So you can see how much thicker this pad is compared to this pad. So that's how they can fit a solid rotor and a vented rotor on the same car. So in reality, even though this is thinner, it should last just as long as the thicker one, because these ones are going to run hotter than the vented ones. The solid disc ones will run hotter than the vented ones. So give or take, this probably should last just as long as the thicker ones for the solid ones, but solid disc. But anyways, so that's the difference. So other than that, everything, all the pieces and parts and the caliper and all that stuff, all these are the same. So good luck with yours. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below or whatever. It will be all good. So thank you very much. I'll catch you later.